Hi, my name's Hudson, and I'm a geoholic.
Yeehaw, Geoholics!
That's an understatement.
I missed y'all last week. Welcome to episode 105. Hit the good people with this week's safety apparel safety share, Big Shoots.
We're going to talk about dog toys, boys.
Oh,
I like dog toys.
So toys are important to your dog's well-being. Toys help fight boredom when you have to leave your dog at home and provide comfort when they are feeling nervous. Toys can even help prevent your dog from developing certain problem behaviors.
That's a lot of positives. Any negatives or?
No.
I got a negative for you.
Okay.
Let's hear it.
So this is the timing couldn't be better. I about damn near broke my ankle the other night. In the middle of the night, walking to my kitchen, I stepped on one of my dog's toys and ended up on my ass.
Did it squeak in the whole 9 yards?
No, it wasn't that kind of toy. It was just like this round, hard rubber thing that had no mercy on my ankle.
And you hit the tile.
I fell on my ass.
Wow.
Yes.
Yeah, and this is when I was under the weather sick, so it was just like one of those days. It's like, what else can go wrong here? You know, it's horrible.
Well, it just put a cherry on top.
So I appreciate you bringing up dog toy
Absolutely.
safety shoots. That was great.
Well, I didn't know that there was going to be a safety share from you on don't trip over your dog's toys.
I guess you could apply
I'm going
it
to throw
to
that at the end.
like kids' toys, you know, Legos and shit
Lego,
like
that was
that.
a big one.
Oh,
I never
man.
put mine away.
Yeah, we know.
We have a room specifically for that. Where I don't go in that room.
All right, so hey, I gotta tell you, like I mentioned, you know, we missed last week. Unfortunately, our guest was under the weather last minute, lost their voice. But man, oh man, what an amazing response from our last episode. That was 2 weeks ago now. You know, I mean, we haven't even been on for a couple of weeks, and the numbers are through the roof. I don't know if maybe it's Dorina. I have no idea. Do we need more Dorina?
Apparently, we just need more business development.
Tons of new listeners over the last couple of weeks, regardless, and we are very grateful for that. That being said, if you're a new listener or even a old listener and want to support the show, it's really easy. Search for the Geoholics on Patreon. Commit to as little as $5 a month. Receive a Geoholics fan pack, and Bob's your uncle, as they say.
There you go.
It's that simple. Last thing, if you're not aware, we let our guests provide input on the music that we use for their show, and then we add that song to the Geoholics playlist on Spotify, which I just looked today when I added this song to the list. It has over 6 hours of music right now.
Really?
Can you believe that?
Wow, we've done some work.
Yeah, so if you haven't already, if you're on Spotify, like or subscribe or whatever it is you do to the Geoholics playlist. So speaking of music, PJ, talk about that opening number if you would.
All right, sure. That was Turnpike Troubadours, Long
Nice.
Hot Summer Day. American country music group from Oklahoma, founded in 2005. Started their own imprint, Bossier City Records, in 2007, and released 5 studio albums. Their self-titled 2015 album peaked at number 17 on the Billboard 200, and their most recent album, A Long Way From Your Heart, was released in October 2017 and peaked at number 3 on Billboard Top Country Albums chart. Pretty good.
There we go.
Fantastic, actually.
Smooth, Jake.
Yeah, no
That was
doubt.
pretty good.
Yeah.
Pat myself on the back for that one.
As long as we got troubadours, right?
Yeah,
That took a couple
that
takes.
took like
We'll be
6
honest.
takes,
We'll be
right?
honest.
Yeah. So I do not have a Turnpike Troubadour story, but I do like their music, and our guest this evening is a huge fan, so that's how that song was selected. Here we are in the Diamondback Land Surveyor studio. Real quick, I actually participated in Mentoring Mondays last night. I mean, I shouldn't say I participated. I attended Mentoring Mondays. Big Shoots participated.
I participated.
Presented
on behalf of his company, Half Associates.
Correct.
And Shoots, I must say, you did a fantastic job, and I was happy to support your efforts.
I appreciate you showing up and doing that. I can't take all the credit. It was myself, Bill Swope, former guest of the program, and Rusty Steele, hopefully future guest of the program.
One of
What
the
a
top
name.
5
What a
best
name.
names ever. No doubt
Rusty
about
Steele.
it. No doubt about it. So if you're not familiar with Mentoring Mondays, please check them out, mentoringmondays.xyz. That, of course, is as a result of the effort our good friend Trent Keenan has put into it. He's got a really he's got an amazing thing going on Monday evenings. So Mentoring Mondays at XYZ. And hey, I know by the time this comes out on Sunday, this is going to be old news, but get this. Trent Keenan is interviewing tomorrow for the NSPS executive director's job.
There you go.
So I am
Good luck
super
to you, Trent,
excited,
man.
and I can't imagine a better candidate out there. So
Everybody give him well wishes.
love Trent Keenan, no doubt. Shout out to this week's featured friend of the program. Who do we got this week,
This
Shoots?
one's near and dear to my heart, Aerotech Mapping.
Indeed.
Aerotech Mapping has been supplying high-quality geospatial solutions, services, and support for the AEC industry since 2002. They've done projects across the United States and abroad using the latest technology and resources combined with a highly educated and experienced staff. ATM specializes in large-scale design-level photogrammetry for a variety of sectors within the AEC industry, including aviation, transportation, energy, commercial development, mining, public works, water, wastewater, just to name a few. Their mapping is done under direct supervision of an ASPRS certified photogrammetrist to ensure that they meet their clients' challenging demands. They have several CPs, I know that for a fact. Aerotech's mapping mission is to bring their clients the highest quality geospatial products and services available. You can check them out at atmlv.com to find out more, and be sure to let them know that you're a geoholic.
Fantastic. Great job, Shoots. And I think we can all agree some good folks over there at
Good
ATM.
folks, yes.
No
if you're
question.
in the Arizona area, call Lyle Slater and tell him Big Shoot sent you.
For the deep, deep discount.
Yes.
All right. So time for the Trimble Geospatial Weekly Words of Wisdom. We're gonna go offshore for this one, boys.
Okay.
It's going to go along with our guest this evening. I'm going to be very curious to know if Jake knows who this person is when I say who had this quote. So here's the quote. All right, here we go. From birth, man carries the weight of gravity on his shoulders. He is bolted to earth. But man has only to sink beneath the surface and he is free.
James Cameron.
Jacques Cousteau.
Oh,
Do you know who that is?
Jacques Cousteau?
Yes.
Yeah.
Come on,
okay.
he's a sailor.
I was thinking James
He's
Cameron.
a
You know how he did
sailor. He's a
the
fucking
he did
sailor.
the thing where he went and went down to see the Titanic. So I don't know. I just
Oh, yeah.
That was a good guess. We'll
Yeah.
give you credit. You know, Titanic.
Jacques Cousteau.
Hold me, Jack.
Oh, man. He used to have a show. I remember as a kid watching, I can't remember what it's called. Dang it. But it was a Jacques Cousteau. We watched it every weekend as a kid.
one more time on that one.
One more time what? You
On
want
the
to hear
quote.
it again?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Here we go. One more time. From birth, comma, man carries the weight of gravity on his shoulders, period. He is bolted to earth, period. But man has only to sink beneath the surface and he is free. That's deep. It could be
That's
both
deep.
ways.
Yeah.
It's
Could be
literally deep.
It could be like 6 feet under, or it could be like you're diving, or who knows.
5,500 foot.
Yeah, exactly. All right.
Or you're looking for the Titanic.
Or you're in the trench.
There you go.
You can look at it
never
in a
know.
number of ways, no doubt about it. Let's
That
catch up with the
6 foot one
boys.
sounds good, though.
PJ, what's up, man?
Not a lot. Kind of an article I read this week that was kind of spooky. And to me, I mean, if you're one of the people that subscribe, I know at least one person in this room subscribes to the notion of that we're living in a simulation. This is just a little bit more evidence. So we talked about the Blue Origin's flight that flew with Jeff Bezos and William Shatner, but one of the other people, and I believe he was friends with William Shatner, Glenn DeVries, I want to say his last name was, unfortunately passed away in a plane, like small general aviation plane accident this past week. So just, I don't know, just interesting
So weird.
to that, you know, the guy's lifetime flyer and he's all instrument rated and he goes and does something like that. And then just a few weeks later, I don't know, just spooky to me.
It's like sarcasm or something. It's so weird. He wasn't a very old guy, right?
No, he was 49 years old.
49 years old, yeah.
Yeah, he was a co-founder of some health tech company of some sort, but friends with them. But yeah, kind of
So crazy.
it's just a weird, ironic thing that
Coincidence,
happens
yeah.
there. So rest in peace to him. But simulation, what can I say?
There you go.
Can't disagree.
Shoots,
man.
how are you, sir?
Well, on the topic of spaceflight, I've been watching, the lovely Carrie's been watching Apollo 13.
Oh.
Oh my gosh. She watches it for like a half an hour and falls asleep. And then I watch another half hour and then she has to rewind it. So I've watched the movie a half a dozen times in the last week.
One of the most stressful movies.
It really is.
When they're on the dark side, come on, give me a break.
But that's the realistic part of that is so crazy to think about with all of that. But
I think that was the first Tom Hanks movie I ever watched.
It's fantastic.
Even before Forrest Gump?
I think so.
Wow.
I was Space Kid.
Yeah, you were a nerd.
Yeah.
No, my Around the Horn is just basically television. That's my life lately. We signed up for Paramount Plus. Have you guys signed up for
How
that
is
one?
that?
It's pretty good.
What comes out of
Yellowstone
there?
or
Yellowstone, right? Yeah.
I think so. Or is that a Peacock? I get confused.
Yellowstone I haven't checked out yet, so I don't know. But a lot of like the movies that are in the theaters, like Clifford, the Big Red Dog, we watched that with Hudson at home.
Yeah.
I'd like to watch that for sure.
It was terrible.
Thanks for the
Don't
recommendation.
Don't watch it. It was horrible. It was a terrible movie. No offense to anybody that worked on that, but they have all the old Nickelodeon shows from when I was a kid.
Oh, wow.
So now I'm passing that upon Hudson.
That's awesome. He loves it.
Oh yeah, Rugrats, Rocko's Modern Life, all these shows. Jake knows.
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
I know Rugrats.
That was his time.
Reptar.
So, yeah, the Reptar bar.
Yeah.
I don't even know
Eat
what
dog
you're
food. You
talking
talk into a dog. You turn into a dog. Stuff like that.
Oh, man.
But so that's my life lately. It's just been television, staying at home, waiting for the holidays, and then travel season begins.
For sure. Looking forward to the holidays. It's just a week, a little over a week away, It's crazy.
And as you mentioned, I did mentoring Mondays, but we already went over that.
You guys crushed it. It was awesome.
What about you?
What about me? You know what? It worked out well that we didn't record last week because I'll be honest with you, I was sick as a dog, and then, of course, the fear starts creeping in. Do you have COVID? Blah, blah, blah. So, of course, myself and the lovely Megan went and got tested a couple different times last week and came back negative. Thank goodness.
There you go.
I was just fighting a good old-fashioned cold. Still am just a little bit. But
kind of funny that we just forget that like regular colds and stuff like exist.
Still exists. Yeah, it's still a thing. You can still get a regular cold.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's okay.
It's not COVID. Everything's not COVID.
Everything's not COVID. Exactly. Keep that in mind. Other than that, TV-wise, caught up on Succession.
Okay.
Love that show.
Not fully caught up, but looking forward to it.
Still one of my top 5.
All-time theme songs. We know that.
Oh,
Been
it's
discussed.
great. It's excellent. Other than that, I'll go lucid. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah?
Hopefully, folks listening got in on it pretty early. It was up 24% today, might I add.
You better keep buying.
Nah, I don't know. I talked to my financial guy today. He's like, let's ride it out a little bit. If it drops back,
You pumped your brakes a bit?
Yeah.
You're vested.
Yep. So
That's all you got.
we're all good. But go lucid. Go buy one. 170,000.
That's it?
That's it.
Oh, shit. Give me 2.
Lucid Air 2022
Motor Trend.
Motor Trend Car of the Year.
For
Already been-
$170,000, it better be the car of the year. Jesus.
Yeah, it's beautiful though. Beautiful car. Made right here in Arizona.
Oh, really?
Casa Grande.
Casa Grande. Yep.
Even better.
Pretty amazing. All right, let's get on with this.
Do we get the local discount?
you might get the Big Shoots discount. We'll see what we can do.
Those deep discounts from the Geoholics.
Yeah. We'll see about that. All right. Our guest this evening is Landon Jakse, not Jakse.
No.
Landon Jakse. And here's a little bit about Landon. He was, this is from his bio. I got to get a better understanding of this. He said he was officially born in Ottawa, Illinois, but grew up in Utica, Illinois, a small town on the Illinois River next to Starved Rock State Park. I've been to that park. The funny thing about that is he was officially born in Ottawa, unofficially. Well, I don't know where he was born, but he attended Morrison Institute of Technology in Morrison, Illinois. Funny story here. 1985, I'm a senior in high school. Yes, I'm fucking old. And Morrison Institute of Technology was one of the colleges I considered going to for like architecture.
Could have done it.
Could, but didn't. So
Go Salukis.
he finished there in 05 with an associate's and then transferred to, get this, Southern Illinois University at Carbondale.
Kindred spirits, boys.
Go Salukis. He graduated in 07 with a BS in Technical Resource Management, but he was really there for the land survey program, of course, led by the one and only legendary Roy Frank. And I guarantee there's a number of people listening to this show that know exactly who Roy Frank is. He is an absolute legend in Illinois and in the Midwest region for teaching surveyors. Mm-hmm. You know, Southern Illinois University was one of the few colleges that had a survey program, and Roy Frank was the guy. And man, oh man, the stories are endless about Roy Frank. So maybe some people will chime in and send us some emails about some Roy Frank stories. Hobbies include hunting, fishing, cooking, and he has actually restored a 1969 Triumph 250 motorcycle, which is Super cool. We'll talk to him a little more about that. And Landon is currently a project manager for offshore survey and positioning operations for a company called Oceaneering. And if you go to oceaneering.com, check out this company. It's amazing the stuff they're doing. So one last thing, he's passionate about being a good leader in everything he does, which I freaking absolutely love. Landon, welcome to the Geoholics. Thanks so much for being here.
Gentlemen, it's a pleasure. I'm glad we got some time to sit down and have a chat.
Absolutely. I think this is our first Saluki.
I think so.
I think it may be.
We got close one time.
We got close.
They went to the other campus though. They went to,
Edwardsville.
yeah, they went to Edwardsville.
Oh yeah, like it's like a unicorn, right? The Carbondale ones are the special ones. The other Edwardsville is not the same. So
special is a good way to describe it.
One time.
So talk Carbondale, man. What a trip. Did you have a blast in Carbondale? I know I did. From what I remember, it was amazing.
Right, same here. I mean, it was such a great part of the country to kind of like go to school in too, right? A lot of people don't realize that. And I didn't even really want to go there at first because, I mean, being from the northern part of the state, that was a whole different world. But man, once I got down there, I'm kind of mad that I only had 2 years there. But I was ready to leave and get started when I was getting ready to graduate. So, but yeah, it was a great place. It's changed a lot from when I went back, but most places do. So. Still a great place.
Well, here's the deal. I had 5 years there, and it was a fucking blast. So here's the funniest story. I was dating a girl at the time in high school. I don't think I've ever told this on the podcast before, but I wanted to go to ASU so freaking bad, right? So this is like, we both applied to ASU. I got in. She didn't get accepted. So I'm like, oh my God, now what the hell are we going to do? And then we're like, oh, let's try Southern Illinois University at Carbondale.
Oh,
like,
I didn't know
where's
that
so we both applied to Carbondale and got in, and that's kind of how that all happened. Yeah.
Oh man, you could have been a Sun Devil.
Well, yeah. And instead, I paid for one of my daughters to be a son. Well, not really. She's paid for it, but. All right, man. So, real quick icebreaker. So, you mentioned that you enjoy cooking from time to time. What's your favorite meal to cook?
Well, I kind of knew that question was coming, but lately it's just been kind of pork carnitas. Everybody loves them. They're delicious. I mean, you can make a bunch of different things out of them, but tacos mainly, and that's a staple down here. Staple in my kitchen for sure. But no, the pandemic gave me the opportunity to really kind of just get better at everything with cooking and running my kitchen. You know, like it's actually been kind of fun in that aspect. But
Sure.
But yeah, probably pork carnitas, I guess.
I like it. PJ, what do you like to cook, man? I know you like to cook once in a while.
Yeah, I've been a stir fry guy for maybe the last year and a half.
Can't go wrong.
Yeah, I just tossed some ground beef in there, one of these stir fry kits, some teriyaki, a little soy sauce, into a wok especially.
Yep.
There you go.
Good
Stir
living.
it up and
Easy, good living.
There's not much you can't cook in a wok, right?
No, the woks are awesome.
Can you cook pizza rolls in there?
Yeah, maybe.
I think you probably could.
What if you put it in the wok and then put the wok in the oven? There you go. That would work.
Okay.
How about you, Shoots? You do any cooking?
The lovely Carrie does most of the cooking, but whenever she's gone, I get the same request every time from Hudson.
What is it?
Corned
Hot
beef
dogs
and
and mac
cabbage.
and cheese.
Oh, man.
That is my go-to.
Go-to.
Hot dogs and mac and
Go-to.
cheese. Can't screw
go
those
wrong.
up.
You stole my thunder right there. I mean, if it wasn't pizza rolls, it'd be hot dogs and mac and cheese.
Didn't we have something on the show recently, not to get off topic, but it was talking about some article each hot dog you eat takes some X amount of time off your life. Did we talk about that?
Oh, man. How am I still alive then?
Yeah,
Jeez.
I was going to say, there's nothing good in a hot dog. Let's be honest.
All right, that's fantastic. So, Landon, you work for a company called Oceaneering, as I mentioned, and after visiting their website, they got this really cool quote on there. It says, "We do things differently, creatively, and smarter. We are connecting what's needed with what's next to solve your toughest challenges." Talk a little bit about Oceaneering and what the company's all about.
Well, I mean, really, there's a lot of different factions of the company that I can't really speak to because I'm not in it. But I mean, at least from where I sit, they do a lot of different things with technology and then apply that to real world problems. And having that connecting what's needed with what's next, that's what pushes you. Knowing what the clients need, it gives you a direction. If you know what they want and it may be impossible at the time, you look at your portfolio of kind of services and technologies that you have. Well, how do you get there? Do you need to create something new? Do you borrow from this and borrow from that? And that's kind of when you really have a good relationship with your clients, understand what's important to them and kind of what they need to do, then you can you just create solutions for that. And I know that seems pretty general, But with companies like that, there's a lot of different things going on, and the right people put it together.
And the company works for like all different business units, right? I know from what I see, the aerospace and government, oil and gas, renewable energy, there's so much going on within this company.
Right. And I mean, I think their main history started out with diving. I mean, you can Google search their history and get a much more detailed story, but it kind of started with diving, and it translated into ROVs. And as the installations got deeper, the pressure and the environment just became more and more extreme. And I think that probably led into the aerospace. There was probably a lot of parallels mechanically with extreme environments. And then everything that spins off of those, I mean, of course, the government and defense is definitely going to get involved in those two areas. And then oil and gas and, renewables and a lot of other things. It kind of grows from there once you have a good base.
Yep. And just FYI, ROV is remote operating vehicle. I learned that before the show. There might be some acronyms.
There's going to be a lot of acronyms.
There might be some acronyms this evening, so we'll have to be careful not to overdo it. One of the acronyms I read about was ROS, being Remote Operating Survey Solutions, and I know that that's something that you're very involved with as far as the offshore operations go. Talk a little bit about that.
So it's something that kind of in our industry. Probably around 2014, 2015, there was what a lot of people are calling the downturn. And that's where, parent companies started looking at, I should say the oil majors mainly started looking at prices of everything and really started to kind of scale down on things and pay more attention to the economics of things. And that really started to push this remote need or have less people offshore or on our vessels or on the installation. So it was basically taking somebody out of the seat on the offshore installation of the vessel, putting them in the office, and then having that comms link. So there's been, it's not a entirely new concept. It's been around for a number of years, but it's starting to mature a little bit more with different suppliers, different vendors, and there's different flavors of it, just like anything else. But essentially, being able to have personnel in an office, seeing what's going on, whether it be through video or just the navigation software, they can make decisions and assist operations offshore, but be on land, be in a control center.
Right. So it's almost like, like some of these military guys that are operating drones from, the other side of the world. It's almost the same type concept, right?
Right. And as time goes on, we're starting to learn more that the clients still require, a physical presence until you can fully automate and remotely do maintenance, repair, inspection of the systems that are actually making you operate. It's not going to go fully autonomous. There'll still be a need for some presence, but I think we'll get there eventually. But yeah, it's essentially the same concept. Actually, I think I saw a picture not too long ago of a drone pilot, because I think there's somewhere down in not too far from me where they actually have drone pilots operating. It's very similar to an ROV pilot chair setup, right? So it's just a bunch of monitors, a chair, joysticks, and pretty much the same thing.
Yeah, pretty sweet, no doubt about it. And like the offshore surveying is what you're pretty much entrenched in at this time. When I think offshore, probably like most people, the first thing that comes to mind is like oil and gas. Are those the type of projects that you're primarily involved with?
Right now, with my day-to-day, yes. So that's the main world we deal with. But there's other tasks, just like anything else, like with land surveying, you kind of have maybe your bread and butter, what you normally deal with, whether it be construction or stationing or, boundary. But different things can pop up. But primarily it's oil and gas clients and doing the construction side of the subsea fields.
Gotcha. And what are like some of the challenges you encounter working on that type of project as far as positioning goes? Just with positioning, there's a ton if you do the whole project, right? Logistics and equipment and everything. But as far as positioning, it's a whole new theater of operations. This is the first time that offshore Guyana has opened up for exploration and development. So, as far as like the accuracies and stuff, it's a lot of the same technologies and the same systems just translated into a new area. So primarily I'd have to say the challenges are more just getting that area to work. But as far as the positioning, the GPS and the subsea positioning, there hasn't really been any crazy environmental factors. Because, some parts of the world, we ran into some really weird things subsea at the water depths in the areas that we're at, whether it be noise, salinity, certain temperatures and stuff that you weren't expecting. But so far, offshore Guyana, where we're working is pretty flat sea bottom, pretty
pretty normal for the time being.
And what are the depths that you're working in currently?
Right now, I mean, it's pretty much a 1,700 meter average, or I should say that's the minimum kind of. So, but there's some other areas that I think have gone about as far as 2,500 meters. So, but yeah, that's probably the envelope we're working in right now. There's a couple of exploration areas that I think go a little bit deeper, but I'd put that envelope on it, 1,700 meters to 2,500.
And you mentioned accuracy. So when, again, you know, I'm thinking like, you know, I'm you know, more of a boundary surveyor kind of guy, and you know, the accuracy has to be, you know, sub-centimeter, what have you. Are you concerned about sub-centimeter accuracy working in that environment, or no, not so much?
Well, so this is kind of one of the things that I want to kind of relay to you guys, is that not that land surveying is easier, but nothing's moving as much, right?
Yep.
Like we're on a completely mobile platform. It's constantly dynamic, and we have to correct for those variables in almost real time, right? So with offshore GPS, it depends on if you're just talking about the sensor or the system as a whole, the whole navigation system with multiple sensors, because as you know, with more sensors injects more air or more possibility for error. But I mean, usually when we're talking offshore positioning, I think we kind of quote more decimeter than anything. I know no one really uses decimeter as much, but the GPSs are the same ones you guys would use on a rover, except for the fact that it's on a mast and it's constantly moving. So the sensor itself, the GPS itself, is essentially the same accuracy as you would have on land. Mm-hmm. It's in a different application in a different environment with different aiding sensors that we have to take into account. So, I mean, if you want to talk position accuracy, I mean, sub-meter is what we shoot for as far as the position of the vessel.
Right.
And then if you want to get down to the seabed, it's a different technology that can get you a lot more precise. So
it's hard to wrap your mind around that.
Yeah.
You know, it's like you have this constantly moving GPS receiver, you know, collecting data. I mean, can you ever nail it down? You know?
Well, think of it this way. Like next time you're out, you know, take your rover with your GPS on a stick, right? And just kind of do this for continuously. And so that's pitch. Okay. And then, you know, you have roll that you have to factor in, and then you have heading you have to factor in. So we have other sensors that feed us that information, and we can keep that GPS position from bouncing around to staying more stable in a tighter air ellipse. That makes sense, right? So we're correcting for that movement to keep the position a little more solid.
Gotcha.
I've seen these videos, and this might be something that's used in like a smaller application than like these like larger ships that you have that you're talking about, but where like they put like this like almost like gyroscope thing on the back of the boat, and it spins around and it like keeps the boat like flat. Is that something that you guys have used or have heard about?
A gyroscope is it's a very useful tool. Like, and there's different sizes as well. Like, I think you're thinking about like on Navy ships, they'll actually have basically like an infirmary or a medical table on a huge gyroscope.
Sure.
So that as the boat's moving, the table stays stable. Well, like in a regular heading sensor, right? It's the same kind of concept, a little bit different, but it rotates and it gives you your heading. So it's like a smaller version of that, if that makes sense.
So what if we put the sensor on it? Like one time I was on a cruise ship and they had like a pool table, and it was like how you just explained. It was a pool table, but it was on a gyroscope like that, so that the table never moved. So why not just put the sensor on a gyroscope, and then it can take out all of that extra pitch yaw and roll?
Huh.
Well, essentially, like it's the same. Think of that same concept. It's just inside a smaller box, and then it's going to give you let's say true heading, and then you can work with convergence depending on where you're at, and then you can have your heading corrections. And
so that's what you are using something like that to subtract from the data you're getting, and that's how you're getting the real.
So like our gyro sensor gives us the heading of the vessel. We want to know that. We're not so worried about staying stable. I mean, the gyro by its nature will stay stable, but we care about the heading it spits out to us. That's what we want to know.
Got it.
Right. So that gives us the heading. So think of it backwards. Instead of the ship moving and the table stays, you care about the table being stable, right? Well, we want the gyro to kind of stay stable, and then as the vessel moves, we want to know what the vessel's doing.
Got it. So then you know what to counteract for. Okay.
Wow.
Right. So we know which way the vessel's heading, and then we have offsets based off of that vessel shape, and then we can kind of move things around where we see fit. So, but that's we could get really down that rabbit hole and go into a lot of detail for that too, because that's a whole nother application of sensors and corrections and offsets and everything, lever arms, the whole nine. So, but yeah, that's the basic concept. We correct for that movement to get a solid position.
Wow. Hey, Southern Illinois University product right there, boys.
I love it. Go Salukis.
Yes.
Lukis. Yeah.
So what about like I'm gonna throw out a acronym of my own here, AUV, autonomous underwater vehicle. Do you do those type surveys very much?
So at least where we're at, I don't do them directly. That's another group, but we're both part of the survey group at Oceaneering. And that group, I mean, my knowledge of that whole area, you can have a whole another podcast with that group because that's a whole nother discipline. But in my world, the AUVs are predominantly they're the thing that go to the site first. They'll do the geophysical and then geotechnical can come off of that so that the engineers know what they're dealing with. Just like with land survey, the surveyor will say, hey, somebody wants to put something here, we'll stake it out. And then the geotech comes in to let the engineers know what kind of soil conditions and what they can do as far as the structure or anything like that. Similar concept. It's not seismic, it's geophysical, but you get data that can help the engineers with their field design or pipeline design or whatever they want to do.
So I think in the last 3 minutes, we've talked about geoscience, geophysical, geotechnical. You mentioned in your bio that offshore surveying around the globe is a he didn't say this, but I'm making this up. Geoholics wet dream. Get it? See what I did with wet there? Yep. So because of the various types of, applications of geodesy that are used all over the world, talk a little bit about that. That's pretty unique and exciting.
Yeah, so I mean, you're in an international type industry, right? And everybody uses surveying a little bit different. And there's, as far as your geodetic parameters, no matter where you're at in the world, it's always going to be different. And like, I've been on jobs where I think there was one, I don't remember the exact details, but like offshore Angola, they didn't really have any geodetic parameters that they had to use there, so they kind of made their own datum, their own setups. And that's, as you guys know, once survey kind of starts something, you have to kind of go off of that, right or wrong. And then, like just in the Gulf of Mexico, a lot of times using NAD 27 or and then based off which projection you want, Louisiana South, whatever the client needs. But with land survey, your range is a little bit more limited to where you're probably using the same thing pretty often, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, I know you guys would know more about that than I would, but at least from my experience, it's pretty much the same thing. But if you're going to go work in the the Mediterranean or the Gulf of Mexico or Africa, Canada, there's different geodetic parameters that you have to follow, and you have to understand it, because if your navigation software is set up wrong, you might be 200-300 meters, 200-300 feet off from what you're trying to position, and it's not good. So you really have to dive into that geodetic application, and like our WGS 84 UTM, that's getting to be kind of the standard, right? Because it's pretty universal, but there's a lot of unique ones out there. And then if you switch from one to the other, you really have to have a way to verify that and test it and everything too. So it's just a bigger area of coverage to where you got to know the geodetics.
Yeah, for sure. And it sounds like you primarily work in the metric system as well, correct?
For the project I'm involved with, yes. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So all meters and sub-meters.
What are these meters he speaks of?
Yeah. Well, that's that. And that's always like the joke, right? It's like, it's 2,000 meters. Well, what's that in American?
Right.
and then of course there's the famous joke where there's what was it? There's only one country that doesn't use the metric system, and they've been to the moon.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Or have we?
USA. USA.
Yeah. I think a lot of the guys that worked offshore on my cruise, I would kind of crack that joke every once in a while, because we're always using feet, right? The imperial system here in the US, but a little bit of fun with that. So
you're basically using like latitude and longitude, and then like applying that to the different projections depending on the area that you're working in. Is that correct?
Right. So when I talk to people, especially internally or outside the industry, think of it this way: like GPS doesn't work underwater. Everybody understands that, right? So you can't track something GPS underwater. Well, you use GPS to get your reference point, which is the vessel on the surface of the water, and then the majority of the time, or the most common technology we use, is acoustics to track things under the water. So it's kind of like a GPS bypass, right? GPS on the surface, and then you use acoustics to reference back that position, and then at subsea you'll get a real world position.
So interesting.
Yeah, this is a whole nother
Whole nother
realm that
level,
I've
yeah.
never even considered.
Whole nother level of smart.
But it's like, and with my background and where I started, I'm still a surveyor at heart, land surveyor at heart, because that's where it started, and that's kind of how I got to this point, right? But like, I've always kind of thought of this as kind of surveying on steroids a little bit, because you got a lot more moving parts. You know, the assets you're dealing with are bigger. You know, it's just the client's yelling at you most of the time to get things done faster. There's pressure every minute. So,
Wow.
I kind of miss land survey, because I could just take the rover, go do a survey, a couple of sections, and then, you know, call it a day. Those are good days, but the stress level was definitely different offshore.
Yeah, and it seems like so many things could go wrong.
And they do. And you hope it's, you know, mostly minor stuff. Well, and the majority of it's mechanical, right?
Yeah.
So, and everybody knows a lot of the horror stories of things that have happened offshore, but the industry's gotten a lot better, a lot safer. I mean, there's a lot of things in place that help prevent stuff like that. But, you know, usually with the ROVs, it's all mechanical. Like, we're basically taking electronics and hydraulics and mixing it with water and hoping things don't break, you know. Wow. That's so
really quick
minor
too.
details.
Talking about just things going on offshore and having things in place. Have you ever seen those videos of those lifeboats they have on the oil rigs, where it's like they're suspended and they're like almost at like a 45-degree angle? You hop in it and it's like a roller coaster and it just plunges in. I couldn't imagine being strapped into something like that.
Yeah, there's a lot of things like that. Like, and that's true. That's not a shown for effect thing. Like, that's really how they are. Because
sure.
if you need to get off that thing pretty quick, that's the fastest, safest way to do it.
Yeah, I mean, just the force of hitting the water though at that angle must be crazy. But yeah, that's better than being on it for sure.
Just this thing. I mean, it's a whole different type of human being that works out like on those platforms for God only knows months on end. You know, I mean, man, oh man.
Yeah, I've never seen videos of like what their living conditions look like, but I'm sure it's not great.
It's different. I mean, it's every vessel, every rig's a little bit different, right? Like, some are set up better than others. I mean, the rigs are always better because they got a little bit more space. There's some boats that are really small. It's like you kind of have to deal with it. It just comes with the environment, right? But, and like, if you're a service hand, which usually surveying is, it's a service to operations. We didn't always have schedules. Like, you go out for 2 days, or sometimes you go out for a month, or, you know, it's definitely a younger man's game when you're living like that and bouncing around, but you get to see a lot and do a lot of cool stuff too. So,
yeah,
you know, there's that.
Plus, you have a pretty cool commute, right? They do it all by helicopter mostly, no?
If you're not joining the boat quayside, you know, helicopters, best way to get you out there. So,
wow.
So, and then you have to go through all the training for the underwater egress too, where they put you in a tank, and you can. I think they got a bunch of videos on YouTube about that. Basically, you get strapped in and they have to turn you upside down, and you have to get out. Oh. And there's some people that just can't cut it, right? So
put me in that category.
Yeah.
Put me in the tank. I want to see if I can get out.
Oh man! So Landon, how the heck did you get introduced to this? Coming from Southern Illinois of all places, and being where you are now, how did that happen?
There's no ocean near there, is
no,
there?
Yeah, no. I mean, well, no. Was it Crab Orchard Lake?
Crab Orchard Lake, right? Yeah.
So,
I've been there one time.
No, it was. I was a student at SIU, and of course reaching my last year there. And that year I think it was when the Land Survey and Professional Engineers Associations actually had a joint conference. And, you know, I was interviewing with people there, and there was a couple options there, but then we had some people come into the Roy Frank's classroom, and they were giving a presentation about offshore surveying. And at the time, the industry must have really been needing people, and they thought it was good to go to the land survey schools because they needed that kind of foundation for the people they wanted to send offshore. And they gave the presentation, and I kind of grasped it a little bit, you know, and then they were like, would you like to interview? Took an interview, and they explained how they did everything. And I was still just kind of like, you guys position stuff 6,000 feet underwater. Okay, that's great, but I don't really understand how you do it. So, you know, they threw me an offer, and I had a choice to make. And I just said, you know, hey, let's go somewhere I've never been, where I don't know anybody, do something I don't know anything about.
Wow.
Because then, you know, I could come back to land survey if I had to, right? I still had that foundation.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. And I figured, let's give it a shot. And kind of the rest is history, man. I literally, after I graduated, 2 weeks later, I was on a boat. Or sorry. 2 weeks later, I was training.
Wow.
And then 2 weeks after that, so pretty much a month after I graduated, I was on a boat working offshore as a SSE, short service employee.
Huh.
So
That is awesome. So give us a couple examples of like just like some really cool projects that you've had an opportunity to work on. If you can share that information.
Yeah, I probably just thinking back, was on one of the first teams that did a multi-beam mapping of the Deepwater Horizon wreckage, and seeing that data set and just kind of and being there. Even though I hadn't worked offshore on the boats during that whole mess, right? Like I was offshore right when it happened. I volunteered to stay on land and support from there, and then got on that team to go back to map it however long later. And just seeing it, like you're seeing it with your own eyes, right? Like you're seeing it through the ROV video. You're seeing the data set that's coming back, and you're there. It was definitely something that was like, you remember that. You're going to remember that for a while, right? Because that's the real deal. That's a momentous part of something that happened in U.S. history.
For sure.
Right?
So what are you seeing when you're looking at the cameras and you're looking at the data sets? Like, what is that? Like, what is down there right now?
Well, you got to remember too. I mean, it's pitch black. You got a lot of lights on the ROV, but your range is limited. You can only see so far. So anything you do see, you're pretty up close and personal to it, right? So I mean, as far as what you see, it depends on what you're looking at. Like probably one of the biggest things I remember is one of the thrusters for the rig, since the wreckage was upside down, like the ROV coming up and seeing it underwater. You usually don't see that. That's the thing that keeps the rig in its position. So you don't normally see stuff like that. And then just realizing the scale of how big it is in relationship to the ROV is kind of one thing. And then the data set is similar to what maybe a lot of land survey guys would see. It was like a point cloud. Right. And really looking at that and seeing the guys processing and cleaning it up and making the model of it was, looking at those two things, like the reality and then kind of the model of the reality was sobering for sure.
Yeah. Probably kind of like a surreal experience for sure.
Yeah. And I think it's one of a more famous story now, but what was it? The alien squid video. I think I was offshore for that one.
The colossal squid.
Yeah.
That freaked me out a couple times when I was little, for sure.
I thought I was gonna get fired over that one. We didn't leak it. We were offshore and it got recorded. And I think years later somebody leaked it. And I think even was it National Geographic got a hold of it and stuff too.
Wow.
And it was. I just remember seeing that thing going like, that happens every once in a while. Something will come across the screen and you're like. What is that thing and why is it down there? What does it do during the day? Even though there's no day down there, it's pitch black and like almost ice cold, but there's things down there, man. It's a whole nother world.
Yeah, that's super freaky. I mean, they talk about that with Challenger Deep and Marianas Trench. Like, I just can't believe that things hang out at that depth.
Yeah.
And yeah.
It's weird.
And it's a whole nother version of space, really.
Well, they talk about that all the time,
way.
right? We know more about, I mean, that's the fun thing. We talk about that before on other episodes, but then we know more about space than we do in our deep ocean.
Yeah. Yep, for sure.
Yeah, and I think what was it in the previous episode you guys did? I think number 90. They were, I think one of the Daves was talking about how there's people who are trying to map it more, and then a lot from what was it was it Malaysia 370 search?
I could go on about that.
They mapped a pretty significant section of that part of the ocean. I mean, they didn't achieve their goal obviously, but they still walked away with all that mapped that mapped area, and now that's covered, right? So as time goes on, more things like that happen. Not so much the plane, but if certain things put us in a spot to map an area that hasn't, eventually we'll get there. So
yeah, just right now there just really isn't demand for it or like objective for it.
Well, it's
like there's nothing really valuable about mapping the middle of the ocean right now. Is that maybe what? There's nothing to drive it.
I don't know the exact answer, but what I can say is that operating a vessel is not cheap and it's not easy. The between the operation cost and the maintenance cost, if you don't have something that's paying that and more, it's really hard to make anything like that feasible just for the sake of mapping.
It's hard to
That
justify.
makes sense.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Especially when there's so much real estate out there. Like, where do you start? You just start here. Well, what's the value? Or it's just it's needle in a haystack kind of. Like, where's it at? Where do you start?
Yeah, for sure. So what's the demand like for, hydro or offshore surveyors? Obviously, land surveyors in general are in, the highest demand ever and probably the shortest supply ever. What's it like for someone like yourself, offshore surveyor?
It's the same across the board. I mean, the industry is getting to the point now to where, like you said, or like I said earlier, there was that downturn, and of course there was this lull, and then now it's kind of swinging back up. And of course the pandemic, the pandemic kind of took its toll a little bit too. But a lot of the work that had been halted in the past is now kind of coming back, maintenance and even some new construction as well. I mean, anybody who's listening, if you want to take a chance and go work offshore, let me know. But it's vast, just like land surveyors, right? And on the other podcast too, it seems to be a trend, right? People with this skill set, this, let's say, survey skill set or survey basics, not only with land, but also offshore. And it's a guaranteed job if you're younger, just starting out or still going to school. So I don't want to get into too much, but like, it's almost to the point to where work can't happen, which will eventually drive up the prices.
Yep.
Which is it's always usually the opposite. Everyone's trying to drive price down, but supply and demand is at work here, and the supply is very low from what I'm seeing. So everybody we can get.
Yeah, for sure. So
Same on the land side.
On the land side, yeah. So I'm just out of curiosity. I don't know if you can answer this, but like a starting, offshore surveyor, what does that look like from a pay perspective? Any idea?
No, it just depends. Depends on where you go and how hungry they are, and it depends on what kind of program you're coming from too, right? I think, was it roughly when I was, and this was what, 07. So like when I was starting out, I think the rough number was around 40, even for some land stuff in certain parts of the country.
Yeah.
So I think it was maybe around 40 or 50 starting, but then also depending on how the pay scale goes, if you do more time offshore, some companies have it to where they'll pay for so many days, like a guarantee, right? You get so much for this amount of days, and then anything past that, there's either an uplift or something tacked on more from that. So, but I haven't worked in that department, so I don't really have a solid answer. That'd be my best guess, and that's going off of 10 years ago.
Yeah, and are there unions that these surveyors work, under a part of?
If there is, I haven't found one yet.
Okay.
But then again, as far as unions are, it's the oil field, man.
Right.
It's just get out there and work, do your job, do good, just stay out there. If not, you get sent home.
Yeah, make a bunch of money.
Exactly.
No,
That's what you're trying to do.
Yeah, are there licenses for offshore surveyors or certifications of some sort?
At this time, no. And I think the previous podcast with Dave's mentioned that too. I think there's a certified hydrographer, either license or certification, but as far as offshore surveyor, no. And even when I was hiring on, one of my questions to the person interviewing me was, should I get my SIT?
Right.
I just graduated. That's kind of the whole reason I was here, was to get my SIT and be a PLS. And he's like, it's not going to make any difference really in pay. If you want to do it, that's fine.
Huh.
But looking at the time constraint, because what SIT is, 10 years? Is it still 10 years and then it can go away, or?
It's different in every state. Yeah. So
I knew there was a time limit, and if I was going to get it, but then work offshore, I wouldn't be really working towards it. So I just decided to forego it. But no, as far as offshore survey, there's no offshore PLS. Let's say a professional offshore POS. You'd be a POS, I guess.
So there's no international registration of
offshore surveyors.
Yeah.
Let's make one up.
I think
there we go.
Let's just start a new certification. I think we're on to something.
Landon will get certified as 001.
Yeah.
Right. That'd be a sweet stamp. I'd take that stamp. But no, I think there's a couple of standards out there that kind of outline some of the requirements or some of the proficiencies you should have. I think IMCA's one, DNV might have a few depending on what they talk about. But, when you're trying to do like international standards, it can be sometimes pretty broad, right? Covers a lot of different areas and stuff. But currently there's no one can go work offshore and then get experience and aim to be like a professional offshore surveyor. We have had, or I know of some people who actually will get their land survey license, and you can sign off on international plats and such. But but it's still a land-based license, not offshore.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Okay.
So it looks like Oceaneering is a super cool company, and again, you can check them out at oceaneering.com. What are some other resources? Like, if people listening want to find out more about, this type of opportunity, where should they go?
I mean, you could drop me a line. I can get you started. Try to put you in the right spot. There's oceaneering.com careers. They got a lot of listings there. LinkedIn, of course. It's one of the reasons I wanted to come here and talk with you guys is that the pandemic kind of halted any type of advertising or at least recruiting type thing, right? So this is kind of an effort to kind of fix that. Is talk to you guys and let people know that one, this whole world exists, and don't be afraid to contact me. I don't care what question you have. I can try to point you in the right direction or the people you should be talking to. So start with me, go to the website, and then, LinkedIn's usually going to redirect you back to the website, but that's how they usually kind of get people in to look at the job descriptions and stuff like that. So pretty standard way, but I can try to make sure you're doing the right thing, I guess.
It's such a unique career path for a surveyor.
Yeah. Oh yeah. This is something I don't know anything about. So it was interesting to
learn. But it's so intriguing. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Well, it's one of those things. There's been a number of times where, you read the bio and everything, right? And, just a small town, 850 people. And then I'd be sitting on a drill ship and I'm telling them to go ahead and rotate the heading of the drill ship by, 32 degrees. And you just watch it on the navigation screen. And they're like, why are they listening to me? I guess, it's kind of crazy. Like they're listening to you. They're moving something that big because you told them to. So, it just worked out that way, man. But it's definitely unique and never thought I'd get to this point from land surveying, but.
Yeah, well, good for you. I mean, do you think it's something that you definitely see yourself making a career out of? Like you can retire doing this, I suppose, right? You can be doing this for the rest of your career.
Well, that's the joke. My current assignment has a pretty long contract date attached to it, which is not that typical. So everyone's like, you're just going to retire on this job. Well, maybe, but it depends. The oil and gas is real cyclical.
True.
We went. My previous employer, was tough because there was about a month there where you're just losing people every Friday. And it's.
Wow.
But then now, we're turning down work, right? Or everyone's turning down work in the industry because we ain't got enough. So it's feast or famine, up or down, right? But yeah, it's something that I think I got a pretty good line on so far. Don't know everything, that's for damn sure, but I know enough to kind of be dangerous. And I think we're doing good things on my current project. We got a great team, people who care, people who have a high standard. And when you're working with people like that, it's when you're in that situation, I've learned that that's very rare. Right. And I want to keep doing that. I want to keep developing myself. I want to keep the people who are working on the team. I want to put them in positions if I have the opportunity to let them shine, let them learn, let them develop. And just do good work. Like I said, being the leader, being a good leader with everything, especially that when you're dealing with other people.
Know enough to be dangerous. I like that.
Good segue into the mantra question there.
Oh, geez. Now Jake just ruined it. Yeah. We gave him his answer. You've listened to a few episodes in the past. You know it's coming. What's a mantra that you live by?
Lately, I would say I want everybody to remember that knowledge does not equal understanding. We live in a world now to where it's like everybody can watch a YouTube video or read a book if so inclined or be told something and they know it. I know it. But you got to do it. You got to see how it really works because everything makes sense on paper, right? But until you actually do it, you're in it. Do you really understand it? And I think the people who understand something are the people who can really know how to move the needle forward on some things that matter, right? And I just think we're drowning in information, but we're thirsting, for that understanding of things. Like, how do you really understand it enough to make it matter, right? So, and that's one of my favorite YouTube videos is Smarter Every Day, Destin, where he talks about that riding a modified bicycle. Now he knows how to ride the bicycle, but understanding it and how you actually do it, just two different things.
Yeah. That's really good point. Yeah. Cause think about it. I mean, we're just inundated with information, right? But And we can repeat it, but do we understand it?
I read some stuff about that, about how our brains, I guess, like the retention of it, or like our memory has adapted over, like, because we have everything at our fingertips, right?
Yeah.
To where our brain is almost adapted in a way where we don't have to store that information for long term because it's so on demand. That's super interesting.
I don't know if that's a good thing or not.
Well,
That's a terrible.
No, I think it's a hugely dangerous potential.
Yes.
That you have a lot of people who think they know and they go head first into something, and it could be really bad. So, and especially in the environment we're in, with everything being bigger, heavier, and more unforgiving, you really need to make sure that the people we're putting out there, or at least we let them try to do something that gauges their understanding, not their knowledge. Anybody can remember questions on a test, but what if I put you in a situation where I really ask you, what's really going to happen here, you think? And then that'll give you a gauge. It's just too many people acting like they know what's going on. And
pretty hard to watch a couple YouTube videos and then navigate a drill ship, no?
My point exactly. Because you like the Mike Tyson saying, everyone's got a plan until you get punched in the face. And
Seriously.
you got to get out there and you got to do it. So that's probably the thing I'm trying to, my mantra now, trying to really remember now, is that some people just they need to be kind of educated a little bit to say, look, I know this is what you think is going to happen, or this is how you think it is, but this is the reality. Like, let's work with that, instead of just looking at the procedure saying it has to be this way. You're trying to force reality. Doesn't work.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, hey, Landon, way to represent the Salukis, kid, man. I'm proud of you.
Let's go.
Thank you, sir.
Go Dogs.
Go
Go
Carbondale.
Salukis, Carbondale. Yes, sir.
We've pretty much
Shout out
covered...
Crab Orchard Lake, of course.
Yep. We can throw a little Kincaid Lake in there if we want.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, I mean, we've pretty much touched on what I was hoping we'd get through. Shoots, you got anything?
No, sir. This is a whole new world that I am fascinated by.
How about
I'm
it?
going to have to do some more research.
Right? Jake's probably got like
YouTube
15 more
videos.
questions.
I got about 16 tabs open of all this stuff I'm going to look at later. All these boats and deep water, all this good stuff.
Jake might have found his calling here.
Yeah.
Hydro. I love the water, man.
There you go. So that being said, Landon, is there anything that we haven't talked about that you want to make sure you get out there?
No, I mean, just that. I just want to let land surveyors know that, like, this is a whole nother avenue, right? Like having that land boundary, having that, was it whatever it is, stationing, all those things that go into land survey, they can translate into kind of what we're doing. The construction side, we just throw a bunch of water on top of it, right? So, and you got to have a certain skill set and a mindset to kind of do what we do. It's a different stress level. It's a different set of tools that we're using, but there's still a lot of survey basics there. So anybody who's listening, if they want to change something or want to know more about it, there's a lot of people out there. It's not just me. I know I'm here with you guys, so you
got to have a good set of sea legs.
Yeah, that in some cases, yes, for sure. But yeah, no, I think it's a whole nother avenue for anybody that's maybe looking for it. And that's pretty much it. And I really appreciate what you guys are doing with this podcast and kind of the efforts that you're pushing forward. I haven't spent a ton of time with the research and stuff, but you guys are the only ones that I've seen so far that are really kind of doing this, just pushing the things that add value, right? Great friends add value type thing. And I like to think that I'm playing into that, because we're
definitely
spreading the knowledge to land surveyors that there's a whole nother avenue, a whole nother world out there surveying.
Yeah, no question. I appreciate you saying that. And without question, you're definitely adding value and
making friends.
We appreciate your time.
Friends.
Appreciate your time. Yeah, this has been fantastic. And I'd like to think maybe we could have you on again sometime and talk to this. Maybe talk about it, going a little bit deeper. Getting the weeds a little bit more on it, because this is really cool stuff.
Yeah, because there's different technologies, different applications, different ways we do things, right? Yep. And there's always a touch of land survey type stuff in there, right? So yeah, we could do basics on USBL, LBL, INS, metrology, all that sort of stuff. So
yeah, that'd be awesome.
Just let me know.
The Geomatics umbrella covers a lot.
It does.
No doubt about it. All right. Well, hey, that'll do it, boys, as far as I'm concerned.
Hey, we've gone global now.
In more ways than one.
We've been to Australia. Now
we're underwater.
Yeah.
All right.
South America.
That's a new pin on the map behind you.
Yeah,
there.
we need to do that, actually. That's a great idea. All right, another awesome value-adding friend-making show. Please be sure to check us out at thegeoholics.com. Follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram by simply searching for The Geoholics. Download all our podcasts from most everywhere. But be sure to download the Geoholics app from landsurveyorsunited.com. Send us an email at info@thegeoholics.com if you have any content ideas or would like to be a guest on a future show. Last but not least, please support our amazing friends of the program, like our good friends at Aerotech Mapping. Every chance you get, be sure to mention you're a Geoholic for the deep, deep discounts. Pay it forward. Add value, make friends. Who is this? What's the name of the band here?
Turnpike Troubadours.
Yeah.
Available everywhere. Until next time, everybody, stay above water. Be safe and healthy.
Every day I'm working on the Illinois River, get a half a day off with pay.
Once again, a shout out to our friends of the program, Aerotech Mapping Inc., atmlv.com, Advanced Geodetic Surveys Inc., agsgps.com, Bad Elf GPS, bad-elf.com, Cobb Fenley, cobbfenley.com, Cyanic Automation, getjobbook.com, Diamondback Land Surveying, diamondbacklandsurveying.com, Get Kids Into Survey, getkidsintosurvey.com, Land Surveyors United, landsurveyorsunited.com, Mentoring Mondays, mentoringmondays.xyz, Monson Engineering, monsonengineering.com, Nettleman Land Consulting, nlcprep.com, Parkland Community College, parkland.edu/surveying, Safety Apparel, safetyapparel.us, Tiger Supplies, tigersupplies.com, Trimble Geospatial, geospatial.trimble.com.